we came through here, 7:05, look like we're gonna have to start meeting in the afternoons. If we can get this time in this. And now we only got about 10 minutes. I just want to hear from, last time we met, we were talking about getting with the departments and coming up with a plan on how we can improve school as far as school improvement. And I met with math, science, social studies, and special ed, talking about how I told them to go back to the departments and let's talk about how we can, based on teacher input, how we can improve the school. So who wants to start? I just want some feedback from what your teacher said.
I'll go. I know one of the biggest things that ELA talked about was communication between teachers in terms of the assessments being used formative and summative to make sure that everybody teaching common classes are doing the same things, and that's something that we really have not done. Implementing, making sure that more of our tests are kind of cold read type stuff. If we're asking a kid to analyze a piece of text, to not worry as much about something we're reading in class as much as it is the reading them on the spot, analyze it there, because that's what Milestone's going to do. Mentioned the idea briefly to help us get to the writing and assessment portion of this, to kind of take a little bit of focus off of extended text and do a lot of short stories, articles and things like that will allow us to assess over writing and finding essential ideas a lot easier than it takes to read 5 to 6 weeks and doing things like that. So more use of USA test prep along with that, because that has direct access milestone type questions. All in learning to help with us staying using common assessments. That might be it. I got all these stuff on the sheet.
Okay. Pretty good. All right.
As far as science, it's kind of along the same ways as language arts. Our main thing is we have to make sure that we're all using the common assessments as far as tests, see out the doors, warm-ups, everything. Make sure that we use that language of the standard. Something that we want to do, we're going to do it. We're going to use all in learning and look at that data. So that data is going to help us maybe do like some flexible grouping, whereas, the kids that is not understanding the concept probably can be go to one teacher, whereas everyone else that's understanding it can go into another teacher's classroom and try to do some advanced type learning there. Just really looking at our data, making sure that we're going along with the language standards and also using common assessments. I think that's the main one. So
Well, since Jay ain't here, I'm going to do this, especially in social studies. We met, first of all, I met my department and told each one of them that they had to meet with their specific content area, and their input was to be as far as the differentiation and making sure all combinations of modification are addressed. With the social studies part of it, we said that starting in January, we could implement like a after school type study session, tutoring, but the use of USA test prep and study island to do a lot of remediation as far as building on, coming up on the milestones for economics and U.S. history. And we said something about getting together and coming up with a schedule, rotating in the afternoon, amongst different teachers. We said continue to increase the various technologies, all in learning, making sure we're utilizing the technology that's available now as far as the iPad cards and Chromebooks and all that. Predetermined halt time again. Remediation weekly based on formative assessment data that data drive the lesson. Implement reading strategies into the lesson and emphasizing them weekly. So that's what we came up with as far as social. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. We said as far as like warm-ups, we wanted to emphasize instead of just one word answer to the warm-up, having construction, like a 2-sentence response. Everybody have
there through incorporating USA Test Prep. We did include GoFar, trying to make sure that we write at a DOK level 3 or higher at least once a week. Trying to model first how to answer those questions, and then require them to answer them more often, and we put at least once a week. And we definitely are going to use our data to plan. We'd love to. Not very many of us have it, teach it at the exact same time, so we can't really do across classes, but definitely everybody has small enough classes, they should be able to differentiate and group within them. We said that we said we're going to incorporate online learning. Really nothing else different than they did it, with the exception of the GoFar and the reading and the writing.
So it's pretty much, and thank y'all for doing this, and get with your departments to see how we can collectively. I'm very, very pleased and okay with everything that was said today, because it does fit right into the direction that we're trying to go with the things that we're doing right now. What I'm hearing is a recommitment to those things, and I can definitely support each one of them. Because you addressed, when you address assessments, and then you address, looking at data, when you address working together and making sure that in our collaborative planning sessions, we're all on the same page, and then we're looking at the data, and we're letting that data, determine our lessons. And all in learning, we talked about that. Matter of fact, I'm re-sending out today just as a reminder, the halt time and the literacy. I think somebody said incorporating, again, with the literacy strategy, it's not going away from what you're doing, it's just incorporating reading into what it is you're doing, and incorporating a reading strategy into what you're doing. If I'm in U.S. history, we're doing something on the Civil War, and on my reading day, I'm going to incorporate one of those reading strategies to still not change the path of my lesson, or not change the direction of my pacing guide, but just incorporate reading into that. If you look at the standards, like Ms. Ingram I have, and look at the DOK levels like we have, it's the same words across all content areas. It's the same words: analyze, identify, all of those same words. Every content area has those same words. So if we're truly doing the language of the standard, those kids should hear that stuff, and they should know what those words mean, because it is the same thing across all content areas. Even though our standards are different, what they're asking us to do as far as on the milestone is the same. And I got Ms. Ingram now putting a comparison together so you all can see it. And it'll amaze you. Put them all up, and it may be a math, science, English, and social studies standard, and it'll all say do the same thing. Now they're saying do it within your content area, but it's all saying doing the same thing. So if we can ever get to the point to where we're all, Ratan standard, and we're all language of the standard, then when it comes to vocabulary, we can close that gap a little bit. As far as our other areas that have SLOs and stuff like that, helping with the reading, helping with the vocabulary, and getting those students to understand, and to help increase those literacy levels and those Lexile levels is you all's contribution to what we're trying to do to increase our scores. without whatever your everyday contribution is in your classes to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in your classes, whether it's CTAE, whether it's fine arts, or Spanish, or ROTC, just to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish and then help the school move forward as far as the items that we are basically graded on, which is our CCRPI, that basically tells us whether we're a school that's achieving our goal, which is our #1 goal is student achievement, or if we're a school that needs to go on some list where the state has to come in and help us. So that, as a collective group, student achievement is our number one goal. So thank y'all for doing that. It's right along the lines in kind of what we've been doing. We talked about all-in learning. You know, it's to the point where the only way it has some, you know, like I heard Coach Stevens in the conversation, just getting your way of doing it, getting what's comfortable for you. We got if not, everybody should have the clickers or they're coming. I know everybody has bubble sheets, you can just print them out. The biggest thing with bubble sheets is the teachers, you know, grade them and get that feedback. I know when I was in Miss Miller's room, you know, when you throw the click, they get that instant feedback. You know, teachers appreciate instant feedback, and so do students. I got one teacher, I went to talk to the department chair. They're using the bubble sheets, but I guess they're collecting them. I don't know what they're doing with them, but they use the bubble sheets, but it's no, you know, it's not, I mean, it takes you 2 seconds to scan them, and then you can get that feedback. So that's something that we continuously have to work on. I don't know if I told this group, I know we were doing our grade book debriefings. I was in a class and the teacher asked them, I think he had like 25 kids in there, and he asked them, what does nullification mean? And the kids didn't know what nullification meant. And as he you know, and of course he prompted them, y'all remember when we said things are non and void, what does non and void mean, and all that, and one little girl finally, you know, answered because he prompted them. But and I was sitting there thinking, okay, the milestone ain't gonna be no prompting. You know, if that kid look at nullification and they don't know what nullification means, then it becomes 50-50 when they gonna get that question right. So that's why that vocabulary, and I keep stressing it, that's why that vocabulary is so important. And I know that we're looking at, I need to say this as well, you know, we're really looking at our milestone courses because that's what we're great on as a school, but that still doesn't mean we're gonna just neglect the other courses. You know, sometimes if we get upset with emphasis, then sometimes we'll try to say, well, they're putting all the emphasis over here and they're leaving, and that is so ridiculous, you know, that I can't even put it into words. You know, we're not gonna neglect, you know, Spanish or college readiness math or chemistry or earth systems. I mean, we do what we do. You know, we do the same things for those classes as we do for milestones. But you'd be crazy not to check the things that you are being graded on. You know, putting the emphasis on those things because that's what the state is doing. So that's what we're doing. But for someone to say, oh, you just neglect, you know, that's just, again, somebody that don't want to do something, but we can't worry about that. But I just thought I'd put that out there. Our CCRPI scores did come out. And okay, our overall score is a 72.2. It went down a little bit from a 75. And these are the things that the scores, different parts of what that 72 score is made of. Achievement points, which are basically your milestone data. That's what achievement points are made out of. You see all the milestone content mastery, and then, excuse me, your high school readiness items, and then of course your graduation rate goes into that. And then your progress points, basically how we progressing in these subject areas. That's part of where the score is from. Then the achievement gap. How are we doing in these areas as far as closing the achievement gap? And I have a comparison. And then how are our students with economically disadvantaged? We don't have enough EL students to get a score from, but then how our students with disabilities are performing. And that's part of the score. And then, of course, exceeding the bar, extra things, you know, percentage of graduates earning credit in physics courses, Carnegie units, and then you've got, let's see, percentage of students passing that here it is, the CTAE test that they do. That's those exceeding the bar scores. And then performance flags, and then of course school climate. Now your school climate survey, we did a parent on the last parent night. We had the parents do the survey. And like I told you before, here's what the parents think of the school, and that's what the teachers think of the school. I know it, I don't know how to make it mark, but I don't know how to, I don't have that bar here where I
You
can.
hit Control Plus.
Yeah, control.
Control plus?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And you can hit it anytime. There you go.
Oh, yeah, I just learned something.
Hey,
And control zero takes it back to normal.
Okay, control zero,
we'll go back to normal.
We go
Oh,
back, just,
okay.
just for future reference.
thank you. All right, so as you see, this is what the parents think. This is what the teachers think. Of course, this don't surprise me because it just depends on what day you get the students. But you got parents that think our climate thing is, as you can see, better than what the teachers think. What you do about that and what I can do about that, I have no idea. Other than requiring us to do what we're getting paid for, I don't know, but you know, that's the purpose of the survey. And so what happens when that comes in, you let's see. And then you issue stars based on your school. And middle high school, from if you get 73.3 to 83.3, you get 3 stars. Of course, we failed in the 79.3 range. And then this is how you get 4 stars, this is how you get 5 stars. Of course, the objective is always increase your stars. For some reason last year, we fell into 2 stars. That was the first time that's ever happened. But then we brought it back up. Other things that feed into that is like suspensions, you know, how many kids are out of school, suspension, alternative school. So there are other things that feed into that. But those surveys are also very important. Unexcused student attendance, all that kind of stuff feeds into those stars, okay? So those are things that we're trying to do to possibly get us up to 4 or 5 stars. All right, a comparison. All right, this is a comparison from last year to this year. So achievement points, we did go up a little bit. Progress points, we went down a little bit. Achievement gap, we went down, how do you close the gap? And then students with disability and economically developed was the difference maker as far as going from 75 to 72. So we went from 4.4 and we dropped down to 1.5. So economically disadvantaged